to each according to his abilities. Damn it, I messed it up. By each according to his abilities. To each according to his needs. Because we watched Season 6, Episode 10, The Race. Hello, Katy.
Hello, Derek.
My dad told me today that he's been recommending our podcast to his friends.
Uh-oh. Do we have to clean up our act?
I don't know. Apparently they said I was funny and you have a delightful laugh.
Oh, I'm not funny?
I can only tell you what he said.
Mm.
So how did you like the race?
Nah.
Was that a good yeah?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
I did laugh out loud a few times, but at the end I wrote lame.
Really?
Yeah.
Like too over the top, breaking the fourth wall?
A little bit. I know it was a Superman thing the whole time, and I think I liked that, but it was, I feel like if I'd seen it on TV in the 90s, I would have been like, this is so funny. They're breaking the fourth wall. They're doing a big like
reference, meta, whatever. Yeah.
But I think as a 2023 audience, I've seen it done better, so I'm like, man, did you like it?
A lot happened. There was a lot going on.
Sure. And
I feel like, so apparently the original cut of the script was 70 pages long, whereas normally they're like 40 to 50 pages.
My God, why? How?
So they cut out like a storyline about where Kramer helps George get a visa to go to Cuba.
Okay.
And a whole thing about Kramer explaining how he can be a skinny Santa.
Yeah.
And so like while we were watching it, like I just feel like there was a lot like, it was like fast, and I think it could have like, it would have behooved the stories to like slow down a little bit and not just like jump around as much.
Yeah. I found it interesting that in the synopsis, George's story isn't mentioned at all. And it really, I mean, he goes to Cuba, like that's pretty big, but he is at the bottom of a pile of a lot of other things happening.
Yeah. So this episode was written by Larry David, Tom Gamble, and Max Prost. It's another Gamble and Prost joint. That
explains it.
There are 6 more episodes that they write in Seinfeld before we can rank the G&Ps.
Okay.
It was directed by Andy Ackerman. It aired on December 15th, 1994. Vulture.com ranked it as the 115th best episode.
Okay.
And Screen Crush had it at a much higher 34th.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
The interesting thing about it was it like in each of the synopsises that Vulture and Screen Crush wrote happened, nothing that either of them mentioned was mentioned in the other synopsis.
Okay. What did Screen Crush like about it? What did they talk about?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Hang on.
Which storyline? You don't have to say it exactly.
Well, I don't want to mess it up because I can't remember which said which. So Vulture.com exclusively talked about Elaine's battle with a Chinese food restaurant.
Okay.
And her quest to buy her boyfriend a nice shirt. I guess they do say just that Jerry's attempt to play Superman is medium funny at best. And then Screen Crush is all like old high school buddy of Jerry's challenges Jerry to a rematch of the race they ran 20 years ago. Dramatic slow motion to the sound of John Williams' Superman theme makes explicit something that is blurred beneath the surface of all Seinfeld. That surviving the day-to-day grind of adulthood is itself a heroic act.
Oh, wow. That's very poetic for, I guess they ranked it 30-something?
34th?
Wow. I think they read a little too far into that.
Maybe.
So, okay, well, an old rival accuses Jerry of cheating in a race years ago. Elaine dates a communist and gets banned by a restaurant. Kramer becomes a mall Santa. No mention of George.
Have you ever cheated in a high school race?
No, but it made me think of a grade school race where if you wanted to be on the track team, it wasn't announced ahead of time, like, tomorrow we're going to have, like, tryouts for track. It was just, today we're having tryouts. And I went to a school with uniforms, and I had these ridiculous, like, shoes that look like bumper cars. They were like giant platform sneakers that were not good for running. But that's what I was wearing the day of the race. So I'm wearing like dress pants and crazy shoes. But I thought I could run decently fast. So I lined up for the race, and they said go. And I took a few steps, and I was just like, this is not going to work. I gave up.
Have you ever dated a communist?
I mean, I went to Guelph, so statistically, probably. Have you cheated in a race or dated a communist?
Have you ever worked as a department store Santa?
What is this? Is this the McCarthy trial? What's going on
It was the 4 things. What were the 4 things mentioned in the synopsis?
Race, communist, Santa. Only 3 things.
There you go.
I've never been banned by a restaurant. Have you?
Not really. I tell you about the time where my friend, name redacted, was banned from the bar across the street from where he lived?
No, maybe.
So, I mean, we skipped a bunch of things that we normally do in the episode so far.
We'll go back.
Okay, so we were at this bar it was with name redacted, and I think his girlfriend at the time had like friends from like France or something. We're all like hanging out and drinking, and people are like, we have a table, but like people are like milling around, and all of a sudden the fire alarm in the bar goes off, and we're like, oh, what should we do? And so like kind of like looked around, and nobody else was leaving. So, we didn't either. And then the bouncer comes up to name redacted, and he's like, you pulled the fire alarm. You have to leave. And he was like, I did not pull the fire alarm. He's like, yep, you did. Out. And he's like, no. And then the owner came over, and he's like, we have video of you pulling the fire alarm. He's like, show me. Sure. Yeah. Run the tapes. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
So I don't think we actually got thrown out that night, but the next time we went in there, they were like, you guys can't be here.
Oh my God.
It was pretty lame. So what had happened was her friends had gone like downstairs, and they thought that was like a light switch. And so they pulled the fire alarm thinking it was a light to turn on the lights.
And then came back to your table.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't make any sense, because if you pulled the fire alarm, presumably it's to get everyone to leave so you don't have to pay your bill. Right? Like, why else would you do that? But then you're sat there. You didn't go anywhere. So it doesn't check out. Just to be a jerk?
Isn't there like a fine for pulling a fire alarm? So like maybe because we didn't pay the fine? I don't know.
There was a fire alarm when I was at a bar in university, and I actually don't remember if we paid or not, but everyone did
just leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just run it on the bill.
We all.
I mean, I guess if it burns down, there's insurance.
So who were the guest stars in this episode?
Thanks for asking. So we had Danny Woodburn reprising his role as Mickey, Vicki Lewis reprising her role as Ada, George's secretary. However, so we had some guest stars. We had Renee Props playing Lois. She was in Get Shorty, Weird Science, and Once Upon a Time in Queens. We had Don McManus playing the role of Duncan. Every time they said Duncan Meyer, I thought of hot dogs.
Yeah.
He was in Vice, Sorry for Your Loss, and Justified. We had Michael Sorich, who was the actor that played Castro. He is mostly a voice actor. He was in Resident Evil Degeneration, Ghost in a Shell, and Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. We also had Claude Earl Jones playing the role of Mr. Bevilacqua. He was in Miracle Mile, Bride of Reanimator, and one episode of the 1970s Battlestar Galactica.
That's a Portuguese name, right?
Bevilacqua?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I wrote this later, but is this actor who plays Lois intentionally bad?
Is she wearing a wig?
Oh, yeah.
Do you wear wigs?
When will you wear wigs? I thought maybe she was like being like cartoony Lois Lane, kind of like damsel something, or she was just a bad actor.
I don't really think they gave her very much. I mean, as Jerry's girlfriend, his one date is to come over to my friend's house to eat Chinese food, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then he like has her in the car twice and then takes her to the coffee shop.
Well, he comes to her office and then Duncan Meyer says she has to work late. And then she goes, would you mind driving downtown again to pick me up? Where's he going to go in the meantime? Home?
I don't know. And then does he do that and then not take her to Elaine's for dinner?
So yeah, I guess she's going to miss dinner. So then he goes to Elaine's for dinner and then picks her up.
Weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe there's a cut scene that explains all this.
He does control the means of production.
I did laugh at the joke that George says when he picks up the Daily Worker at Elaine's apartment. And she goes, oh, that's Ned's. He reads everything. He's very well read. And he goes, or is he very well read?
So in high school, my friends and I published a pirate newspaper and called it the Daily Worker.
Are there any remaining copies?
I don't think so.
Oh, were you communists?
No, I don't really know. I think it was to antagonize our friends that were like really part of the school newspaper.
What was it called again?
I don't know. The Red and Gold, the Angel's Wings.
I don't know, something like that.
Saints News.
I don't know.
Saints Rose.
Yeah, that's so funny. I kind of forgot that we had a school paper, which I never once read one word of. So George asks if Ned wears bland, drab clothing. And I mean, I'm not a communist, but I think I look best in olive green.
It's very flattering.
I wear a lot of like drab gray clothes. I'm wearing drab right now.
Do we need to talk about your political leanings right now?
My hair is red. So I wrote down what apartment is this because I guess this is a new apartment for Elaine. It's a new set.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I think they use this for the rest of the series as Elaine's apartment.
Oh, okay. She confronts Ned and it just goes like...
Another day, another dollar. Making money. Are you a communist?
And he says yes. And she goes, oh, it must have been such a bummer, the fall of the Soviet Union and stuff. She goes, you had a good run.
Had a good run.
So,
70 years of...
So I have a little piece of paper stuck in my monitor. Have you noticed it before?
Yep.
I'll...
Oh, you just spilled red wine everywhere. We're back.
About to bash communism.
From the red wine. You were whining about the red?
Okay.
Listeners, where else can you go for great wordplay and commentary about a 30-year-old Seinfeld episode?
So I have this tiny piece of paper. It's about the size of a stamp, but it fell out of my uncle's school notebook, which I had for some reason. I had a bunch of stuff from my grandparents' house. And it's a hammer and sickle and a skull with a star on its forehead. And around the outside, it says, during the 50 years of existence of the USSR, 50 million victims of communist terror. So this just fell out of his notebook and I kept it. And I Googled it because I was like, how, whenever that was, it was 50 million. Like, what's the grand total?
And the facts checked out?
According to Google, 94 million victims of communism.
Sure, yeah.
And then,
I don't think it was good for most of the workers.
No, but then right below it, you know how Google has like common questions or whatever?
Sure.
It says, how many victims of capitalism has there been? Because of course you need a fair, balanced, view of this. And it said 100 million victims of capitalism. And they're counting world wars and stuff as like a direct result of capitalism, which I think is a bit of a stretch.
That's true. I think neither of those numbers are really fair, as the Soviet Union isn't like, true communism necessarily.
Oh, please elaborate.
Well, I mean, it's more like the power disruption and the corruption. Et cetera,
oh, sure,
et cetera, right?
Sure, of course.
I'm not saying corruption doesn't exist in capitalism.
So you're saying in a true communist utopia, you wouldn't have any of these problems.
Sure, yeah.
You also wouldn't have any delis, according to Kramer.
No, because it's a classist.
No pastrami? No corned beef? Maybe if you were in the Politburo.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down something that Kramer says. Little girl sitting on his lap, and she doesn't want to tell him what she wants for Christmas, and the mom goes, she doesn't speak English.
Kramer speaks the language of all children. Santa speaks the language of all children. Kramer, do we want to lump Santa in with Kramer in this instance?
Norchy, warchy, dorchy, do.
Norchy, warchy, dorchy, do. Yikes.
Then I wrote the word insufferable. I don't know why. I just wrote it down.
Because Kramer is insufferable?
No, I think it was Ned.
Oh.
You've had that friend, probably not now, but like when you were younger, who just, their whole identity is one thing, whether it's they're a communist or they're vegan or whatever. And you cannot have a nice time with people like that because everything comes back to, well, how can you sit on that couch? A cow was skinned so you could sit there.
Just live my life. La, 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 la. I think Elaine did seem super enthusiastic about dating a communist.
She really did, and she talked about it to everybody. Why was she so excited about it?
I don't know.
It's exotic in the mid-90s to be dating a communist.
Maybe.
3 years after the fall of communism?
Maybe that's why it was so fresh in everyone's mind.
Maybe he's like a rebel to her.
I didn't realize it was such a sensitive topic. I think it's a little unfortunate that we didn't get more runway with George's story to meet the woman from the personal ads in the Daily Worker who said that appearance wasn't important.
Yeah. I mean, what did she look like?
I think there was like a whole thing there that you could like go through and, there's unexplored storyline.
Can he not date Ada because she's his secretary? Like they could have a tryst and then that's it? Does she go?
I mean, it would be inappropriate for them to date, Katy.
Well, or is he that she makes more money than he does?
Maybe she's upset that he's upset.
That's why she goes to Steinbrenner and rats him out. Names.
After their tryst, she did get like glowed up.
She just wore her hair down. Let's be real.
1980s glow up. Wear the hair down, take off the glasses. Yeah. Works every time.
So I guess we have to talk about the race, the titular storyline of this episode.
Yeah, sure. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I didn't write very much about it. Like, who can't let go of stuff like this? Like Duncan Meyer, still so upset after all these years. And also Jerry hanging on to it so desperately that he can't risk losing the glory.
Well, I mean, depending on how often it was throughout his like 4-year high school career. Like imagine something bothered like every few days in a series of 4 years during your formative years, somebody's bugging you about something. Like you're probably going to carry that around into your mid-30s.
Well, I'm sure nobody was bugging Duncan.
No, but they were bugging
Hines
Jerry
about it.
Not Duncan Hines. Duncan Myers.
Yeah, so why does Duncan Myers care so much? I know he feels wronged and he feels that Jerry got a head start, and Jerry admitted that he did get a head start. But like people aren't talking to Duncan Myers every day about the race. Right? He might be seeing them talk to Jerry and glorify him, but like get over it. No?
Well, yeah, probably get over it. But I mean, there's the whole trope of like the athlete in high school, like, oh, I got 4 touchdowns in the state game.
I guess. Well, right? Yeah, I guess he peaked. He peaked in high school.
Yeah.
So Jerry and George conspire to do a little acting in front of Duncan Meyer because he doesn't know that they're friends. Neither does Lois. So Duncan wants to meet for lunch. He's going to bring Lois. They're going to the cafe. They're going to talk about the race. And George is going to like happen into the cafe and be like, oh my God, Jerry Seinfeld.
I think this is the best scene in the episode.
Yes, because of Jerry and George needling each other. Yeah, I did laugh out loud when he goes, oh, Jerry, you're a comedian. Do you do a lot of that? Did you ever notice stuff? And then Jerry just goes, "You really went bald there."
Did laugh out loud then, yeah.
So why wouldn't George just say that he works for the Yankees?
Because he could instead be an architect, which is his dream job. Also, coming up with a more successful story, he gets to... Remember that time we went to that wedding, we didn't know anybody, we just told them we worked for the space agency?
Yes. Nobody knows anybody at the space agency. You can't fact check us.
Yeah.
Trajectory, boosters, altitude.
I just said I worked in the IT department there, and I didn't really do anything special.
Later I wrote that Ned looks like Daniel Radcliffe. Actually, he looks like the actor who played Harry Potter's dad.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Looks a little bit like Jason Bateman.
Oh, I don't see that.
No?
No. So they have the race, and Kramer is going to drive George to the airport to go to Cuba. He says, "I'm parked down the block. As soon as this is over, we got to go." He goes and sits in the car, starts it up, and it backfires. And Jerry takes off.
Jerry gets another head start.
I do like the slow-mo once he's won the race, and everyone's running down the street to congratulate him, and he pushes Elaine out of the way.
You did laugh then too, yeah. Apparently they were going to film this scene with Jerry in like a skin-tight racing suit. And they were like, no, this is over the top.
He doesn't look like he's ever run in his running shoes.
I don't think it, I understand the concept, but this doesn't mean anything.
The race?
No.
No.
I mean, a race 20 years later doesn't mean, Also, they said Duncan's calling up a whole bunch of people from high school to come watch. Could you imagine being called by somebody from high school? Hey, come down to the street for a 6-second foot race.
Yeah, 50-meter race between two 40-year-old men.
No, thank you.
That's all I have until the tag where George is in Cuba and he walks into El Presidente's office, and it's very much Steinbrenner-esque from behind. He says he's muy simpático to the communist ideology. And then Castro
invites him for dinner. There'll be girls, some food.
The only problem is you have to stand up to eat.
But I do not like to also put a plate on my knees. There was one time I was at a party and I put a plate on a piano. Now, I could not have gotten away with that if I was not a dictator.
And George backs out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was pretty funny. I did write down the names on the Do Not Deliver list.
Oh, yeah, sure.
From
Hop Sings.
Carol Brown, Pete Papadopoulos, Peter Harris, Tracy Lashbrook, Elaine Bennis with 2 exclamation marks, Ali Bunch, Davin Henry, and Norm Brenner. Except for Elaine, are all crew members.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Pete Papadopoulos. I looked him up. He's got a stock photo on Getty Images that you can purchase. And at the time it was taken, the caption said, "Pete Papadopoulos is the oldest grip in the Union."
Good work, Pete.
His name was also used by Kramer as a superintendent of the building. Mr. Papadopoulos saw him, blah, blah, blah. And a horse that they bet on is called Papa Nick.
Oh, there you go.
Do you have anything else from this episode?
I mean, I have notes that we didn't really talk about, but whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. I have corrections. Just one.
Yeah, sure.
We had never heard of I could go to the tomato root. Oh,
yeah, I looked this up too.
Yeah, so it's slang for a hot woman. I've never heard that in a movie or anything. But a listener commented that as well, so thank you. And I figured out why I keep calling Banya.
Because of the show we watched in Portugal.
Banho, yes, but also because of the several people who are very important to me in my life named Tanya.
Oh, yeah.
So in my head, it's Banya. Tanya Banya.
You imagine if Banya married a Tanya?
Then it'd be Tanya Banya. The other thing I want to mention is that today is Labor Day when we're recording this.
Ah, it's a good communist day. Thank you for all the communists that helped fight for our right to get a day off and work 40 hours a week.
That wasn't why I brought it up. I just wanted to say that the Argos beat the Ticats in the Labor Day Classic, and everything is right in the world.
So what's up next week?
The Switch.
Ah, the Switch.
What's it about?
I don't. So I looked up because I saw the screen cap and I didn't know if it was one episode or another one. So I looked up which one it was. And I don't want to spoil it for you. So maybe we should skip reading the recap before we watch the episode next week.
Okay. But you're also supposed to blind react to the name. Do you remember this episode? You're not supposed to look it up. Okay.
All I'll say is, do not just get down on your knees and thank God that you have access to me and my dementia, which is the line from this episode.
Okay. Well.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Believe it or not, this is our podcast. Please subscribe at the end. If you subscribed, we would be happy. Please subscribe to us. Believe it or not, it's our podcast.
Is that a Seinfeld reference?